Jensen Huang's going to call the next ones, but we'll be multiple generations worth of GPUs in theory, AI bubble will be burst by then. Or even just, what if there's just, if the client doesn't exist in 4 years? Like, what if the client doesn't, like, that is the most reasonable question here. And while in some cases, like Meta's, they have a kind of a backstop, like Meta will backstop it. What happens in 5 years? Because those backstops are going to go away. Meta also could just not take ownership of the data center. But the point is, these data center debt deals are, it's kind of like a subprime loan in the sense that after a teaser rate, 6 months in, the rates increased and then everything became much harder to pay. It's going to be, in this case, a year or so in, or just a year in, and construction finishes when they realize, oh, customers can't pay. Oh, our customers found a better deal elsewhere because it's taken 2 or 3 years to build this Blackwell data center.
How are these companies allowed to play with the shareholders' money like this? How are they not being held accountable?
Or just, I don't know, we have to upgrade it in 6 years. With what money? It's just a...
If it were any lay person who took your money and started spending it and destroying the money, just giving it away free to his friends and everybody he knows, how are these corporations any different? How are they allowed to spend and splurge on money that does not belong to them? It belongs to the people. It's debt. Debt, it has to be paid off by the people, by the government, who eventually tax the people. So how is this allowed?
Are investors going to have to put in more cash? Is the debtor going to have to? No one's really, and I've looked a lot. It's actually really difficult to find any documentation of these loans by design. I don't think they want people thinking about them too hard. But it is, though it's a slightly different financial vehicle, it's the same thing as the subprime mortgages. It's people getting loans that don't really have any reason. Like they don't really...
Yeah, subprime mortgages were... The crisis was started by people who were taking loans which they could not ever pay. And it was done by people. And this AI boom, AI bubble, is done by corporations who are taking loans which they know that they cannot pay.
Really, they shouldn't. Let me rephrase that. It's people getting loans that they can't afford, or at least they can only afford based on magical thinking. And to be clear, subprime...
Yeah, it's like, if a person has no job, he takes a loan and he pays himself a salary like $1 billion every month. So the AI bubble is similar to that.
Prime mortgages were not just poor people. They were also richer people who could not afford their houses. Subprime referred to anyone who just bad rates. They were just referred to anyone with a bad rate, really. And I mean, most data center loans are junk. They're crap. They're high interest yields, but that's great for the investors in...
Subprime mortgages were like the people who bought houses and suddenly the value of their houses just dropped. They thought that they could buy a house and using a loan, and when the price of the house rose, they could flip it and earn a profit. But when they bought the house and the value of their houses just crashed, they lost all the money and ended up with a bunch of debt. So this is similar to that. Whatever is happening with the AI data companies, the AI bubble is similar to that.
In theory, because there's so much money in AI, unless you look at how much money there is.
No, where is the money in AI? They cannot automate shit. They're not able to replace even a single worker without hiring a bunch of other workers to look at the work that the AI does. Where is the efficiency? Where is the profitability in spending all that money on AI, on compute, on on the inference, on the calculations, on the power bill, on the infrastructure, the chips, the RAM, the hard drives, the solid state disks. Where is the money? Who is going to pay for this AI? Whom are you building all this capacity for? The people don't want it. The companies don't want it. It's not profitable.
It's all going to go poorly.
When the debt does finally come onto the books from these SPVs, or a data center gets delayed, God forbid, or how would that ever happen? How quickly do you see these data centers being marked down?
SPVs as in special purpose vehicles, right? It's similar to the subprime mortgages where toxic debt were bunched together. They were made into a SPV, that is a special purpose vehicle, and they were passed off to the next sucker, whoever was gullible enough to buy that. So SPV basically means it's a bunch of toxic and unpayable debt, which the company is passing it off to another company on a huge discount, because they know that the SPV, the debt in the SPV cannot possibly be paid by the person or the corporation who has taken the debt. So it's just passing the buck
down. And do you see any way that wouldn't happen?
So I think what we see is a chunk of capacity come online, fits and starts in the next 6 months. I think there's chunks of it that get immediately absorbed. I actually see Anthropic and OpenAI becoming the kind of renter of last resort. Though I think I have some questions there as well. But I think it's going to be in the next 12 months you're going to see the occasional blips here.
Now, who's buying the services of Anthropic and OpenAI? Nobody wants it. It's just slop. Whatever the LLMs dish out, it's completely useless garbage. Even a person who has no training in software development or in other fields can do a better job than AI, and it is so power hungry and so expensive. The inference cost is so much. So it's a complete no-brainer. Why would anybody? What is the use of this AI?
Data center project faces financial problems because client won't pay. A lot of the debt confidence in these deals, the ones I've seen, if a client doesn't pay for 3 months, then it immediately becomes a breach, and well, the people that were building the data center have to feed their own money in. And I think it's one of
the next step would be like if the client is unable to afford the bill of the AI, then it becomes a breach, and the AI companies have a right to take over the assets of the company who cannot pay the debt. That would be the next step. Wait and watch. This will happen. It is a grift. It is a fraud. They are trying to buy out and hollow out all the companies by dishing out and forcing them to use AI, which is completely useless, and telling them that they are in a bunch of debt. They have to pay the bill for the inference, and then you have the right to take over the assets. That is the grift of the AI.
One of those situations that breaks things. And it's going to be one or two and then lots, where it will be, okay, client didn't.
I think all these AI companies, including Jensen Huang and the other Sam Altman, they're all going to go to jail.
The person renting it didn't pay. Now the original, like
the pitchforks are coming.
The core weaves of the world of the applied digitals, crap. Now they have to put money in, but they're running into financial trouble, and the only way that they can get money is from AI startups that are not paying them. And so
no, the GPU is a depreciating asset. Why would anybody buy a bunch of GPUs and rent it out to others? The moment you get a GPU, it's becoming obsolete. As the days go by, the GPU's just drastically losing its value. It's worse than a car or a house. So what business sense does it make when a company like Corvi goes ahead and buys a bunch of GPUs and rents it out? It doesn't make any sense.
I think it will be slow, and then all at once, and then just a torrential downpour for probably years. Because these, with
whose permission do these AI companies they with whose permission did they invest the money of the pension funds and the other funds, the funds of the people who have no idea where it's being invested? With whose permission do they go ahead and take that money? So now they have to pay it back. All the money is being lost for inference and training and for running a bunch of inference on AI and training models and such for a service that nobody wants because it's crap.
I don't think hyperscalers are going to. I don't think they're going to let down the people they're renting from, except for the fact that Microsoft has a clause in their contract with Nebius that says they can cancel the entire contract if Nebius does, and with the 6K they filed, that they can cancel the entire contract with Nebius in the event that certain milestones of delivery are not met. To your point.
What are they going to deliver? To whom? What do they mean by delivery? Where is the business model? Who are your customers? How can a company afford to pay the bill for an AI inference cost when the AI is completely junk?
Point. That means if a data center gets delayed, a client can pull out. And I think that that's the case across the board. It was definitely the case with CoreWeave in the past as well. So I think that I think a chunk is going to come online.
Okay, so if the data center is getting delayed, who's going to foot the bill? You have to first pay the money to build the data center, right? So you cannot just sue someone that they didn't build the house in a certain period of time when you haven't actually paid the contractor or the builder for building your house.
Line, it will be absorbed because there's demand that exists because Anthropic and OpenAI are taking up so much. But I don't think there's more than a few $1 billion of non-OpenAI, non-Anthropic compute. And once that gets absorbed, I think we're in real trouble. And there's also a lot of evidence that still data centers are not coming online.
To the point about delays, I saw
Yeah, they're not coming online because it's very expensive to run data centers. You have to foot the power bill, the cost of the infrastructure, the water bill, the land that you're going to use. Who's going to foot the bill for running the data center? It's expensive.
Yesterday that lead times for some energy infrastructure is now pushing up to, I think it's 144 weeks, nearly 3 years. So how narrow is the margin of error between sort of the construction times and then the term?
What are the services they are running on the data center? Let us all know that. What services? I don't think they are going to run the slop models on the data centers. No, the LLMs are not going to run the image generation and the video generation. That will not be their primary, the primary thing that they are running. So what are they exactly running on these huge data centers, gobbling up a bunch of power and eating away all the investors' money?
Terms of the debt held by these SPVs, and then what happens if those terms are breached?
So I'm talking from reading a few CoreWeave ones, one of the few that they've got online. A lot of them have covenants that say, okay, you need a certain amount of money coming in to not be in breach of the loan. So it will be, it's mathematical based on it, but you need a certain amount of client revenue coming in, otherwise you're in breach.
Yeah, you need a certain number of client revenue, and you need a plan by which you're going to pay off the debt. You cannot basically just keep on accumulating debt without ever paying off the debt. People are gonna want to finally recover their money, and then a dividend or a profit maybe.
Reach, and you will have to start making investors whole. The thing is, 3 years, they don't have 3 years. They don't even have a year. They have to start bringing these things online very, very soon. And that's kind of the thing. I think the one I read in CoreWeave was the middle of 2027 was when they had to have revenue coming in from the data center. And if it's not, this is going to be a problem across the board. Maybe this spills into 2027. 2027 is probably when this happens, but we might see signs this year where it's not so much that the projects aren't getting built fully, it's that they're not getting finished, and that means that they can't offer enough.
What are they going to run if the projects are finished? What does a data center which is gobbling up a lot of energy, what is it running? It's running the video generation models or the
enough compute to clients, and the clients get to pull out. And we don't know, because again, SPVs, private, it's all private, we can't see it except for filings when they choose to be generous. These things will all have different debt covenants, and the less notable the data center operator, so CoreWeave, very notable, backed by NVIDIA, OpenAI signing contracts with Meta and so on. Applied Digital works with CoreWeave a lot, so big names. These other data center plans from random speculators, I don't think the debt deals are going to be as good, which means the covenants, so the rules they have to abide by, will be a little bit harsher. And the less notable they are, the less experience they have building these data centers. And I think the scariest thing for me is that, and I mentioned this in the show before, a lot of these data centers are funded by private credit. A lot of CoreWeave data centers, I think it was CoreWeave CDPQ, which is Quebec's largest pension fund. I think they're invested in the CoreWeave data center. Alliance is in OSIRIS-1. The company's called Cyrus-1, so OSIRIS-1.
So did these data centers and CoreWeave, did they get explicit permission from the pension funds to invest their money in their data centers?
And they own the bonds. PIMCO, tons of retirement and insurance funds. Apollo Global, you recently heard, invested $35 billion into a deal to buy TPUs. To raise debt to buy TPUs via Google from itself and then rent them to Anthropic through Google, and the loan is paid from Anthropic. Anyway, that's funded by insurance and retirement funds, because Apollo Global merged with an insurance retirement company called Athene in 2022, I believe.
It all just pointing to a controlled implosion of the global economy. Now, this, along with the war that's going on, the horrendous war that's going on in the Middle East, I think it's all being America is being set up to, the American economy is being set up to fail, like a controlled implosion or controlled demolition of the American economy.
Al bought Cover Insurance, who are already invested in data centers. A lot of people are in data centers without knowing it. And I could go into a long reason why, but the long and short of it is, after the great financial crisis, insurance and pension funds needed yield, and treasury bonds were down at the time. The yield was down, so they went, well, we need something more reliable. Commercial paper's gone. And so, what turned up eventually? Private credit funds, which did big yields. Now, the reason they did the big yields was the deals were terrible, but thankfully, after all that time, they found data centers, because you can lie to people and you can say, this is like buying stable infrastructure. It's like buying houses. And when has debt and housing ever gone wrong? But this is so much worse, because after this, there's nothing you can do with these GPUs. So yeah, just a massive, a great financial crisis of indeterminate size sitting there, separate to the equity bubble of just the stock market.
So then who's left holding the bag, as it were? Because you've got the, like you say, the non-recourse.
Yeah, the bag is being held by the governments and the people. The government, they'll go with a begging bowl to the government. The government will tax the people for the too big to fail data centers and the misadventure of these AI companies.
Loans, and then I suppose everybody's pensions. Everybody's pensions basically the only thing that's going to pay off these loans.
No, it's worse than that. Sorry. So what happened is, so it isn't all pension funds, but there's a lot of pension money in it, a lot of insurance money. When the data center is funded, the SPV gets all the debt. SPV spends the debt on building the data center, buying the GPUs, running the data center.
Yeah.
The only way anyone's made whole is if the client pays
No,
the rent.
what are they running on the data centers? You're not telling us that. 1,000 GPUs or 10,000 GPUs, what are they running? Inference of video generation and the crap slop. What do they exactly run on these data centers?
Revenue.
Yeah.
So it's not just that pension funds would have bought into this, it's that they would rely on the yield, so the ongoing payments from these deals to be able to fund their insurance premiums, to be able to fund people's retirement. So that's bad too. The people holding the bag will be the creditors. It will be the people that invested in the SPV. And they will only have as much recourse as they can actually litigate. And here's the problem.
Yeah, similar to the subprime mortgage, where the SPVs were sold to the suckers who did not know that it's full of toxic debt.
Is actually one of the problems, I should say, is unlike the subprime mortgage crisis, which was like a million or more subprime mortgages, like it was hundreds of thousands of them at least that went under. That was a slow boil. We're talking maybe a couple thousand of these things, but they're 500 million, a few billion each. It only takes a few to go pear-shaped for things to be really bad. And people will say, oh, Ed, it's not as bad as the great financial crisis. That is not relevant. It's still bad. It's still a financial... It's not like they're a good financial crisis. It's not like people like, yay! I guess there are some who short markets, but you can't actually short the data center bubble. That's the crazy thing. Unless you just short the US economy, but I wouldn't do that. It's all very horrible in so many ways. So the people holding the bag are going to be the people that invest in data centers.
Yeah, that is precisely the plan. Somebody's going to short the US economy.
And for the most part, the people that build the data centers will be fine. They'll be
A lot of people are going to go to jail.
okay, and they'll only not be okay after endless litigation. So it will be a case of, how much of this can you litigate? How many of these do you have to litigate? And the answer is, they won't really. I mean, they will, just to be clear, there will be court cases up the wazoo on this, many of them written in ChatGPT. But I think it's just frustrating because all of this could have been avoided if we stopped like a year and a half ago. But because hyperscalers spent so much on GPUs, the entire market went, oh, there's a reason to do that, versus just this being hyperscalers at the end of hypergrowth trying to find a new business model. And also they can only copy each other.
You argue that investors and private equity are heavily mispricing the risk of data centers because they believe three fundamentally untrue things about AI demand and safety. Obviously, what are those three assumptions? And then why are investors so blind to them?
So, first of all, they have this mistaken belief that AI demand is infinite and all compute will be used. And they believe this because right now it's hard to get compute. And that's because it's not impossible, by the way. You can get Blackwell GPUs. You can go on RunPod right now, Lambda as well. Anyway, they believe that because it's hard to get compute and because Anthropic is buying all the compute and OpenAI is buying the compute, that's the market buying it. When actually what's happening is OpenAI and Anthropic are buying most of it. Microsoft, Google, Meta, Amazon are buying the rest. And NVIDIA, of course, is backstopping it. There's also this myth, and the second one, this myth of locked-in consumer demand or customer demand. This belief that every data center is being sold. So I actually tracked down this fact to a single analyst letter. There's just one analyst who said, yeah, like 77% of them, and that was a year ago. 77% of the data centers they're already sold. This is also an unknowable and uncheckable fact.
Yeah.
You got to like most data centers, goddamn have I looked, have their contracts buried. You cannot find any of them. So no one really knows this. This is mythology on the level of people saying Amazon Web Services and Uber lost a lot of money. It's like a bedtime story you tell yourself. Because here's the thing. If every single data center in planning actually had locked-in consumer demand from people paying for it, that would be, and I've done the maths, 190 gigawatts under construction, PUE of 1.35, which is just the amount, because when you use data centers, you have a certain buffer of power. Comes out to about 130 gigawatts of data center capacity in planning.
130 gigawatts of data center.
At 12 million gigawatts $12 million a megawatt works out to about 1.6 something trillion dollars of annual revenue. If that demand exists, if all of that is locked in, yeah, I'm wrong the whole time. That would be insane, because that's twice the revenue of the global software market. So no, I'm not wrong on that one. What this is they've heard a few contracts were pre-signed, meaning that when construction is done, they're guaranteed the revenue. And they've taken that to mean the whole industry's like that. I should also add, I, as a business, can say, yes, I will definitely pay for this. If my business goes under at the end, you can't get blood from a stone. And then there's the...
Yeah, you're gonna pay for it by surrendering your business to the data center companies. You're gonna lose your business by using AI.
The third one, which is these are safe infrastructure investments. Because right now there's a term called during the great financial crisis, there was a global savings glut, tons of money flowing into America, pushing treasury yields down, lots of money flowing into everything. That led to the great housing crisis, low interest rates, and then interest rates went up, shit went bad. This time we have a global savings grab, which is money is expensive to raise, so money is flowing into what the market believes is safe. And what do they think is safe? Buildings. They look at a data center and they say, that's a building. And you turn the building on and money comes out of the building. The problem is that only makes sense as long as everyone pays, and also as long as you have an industry behind it. Right now, and I've looked, I cannot find, outside of OpenAI and Anthropic and the hyperscalers, more than...
But it's still cheaper to hire a person than to run a model and could pay for inference. So the business model of AI just went belly up.
a couple $1 billion, and that's actually probably an overestimate of actual GPU pay, like of people renting GPUs. I just can't find the evidence that there's even much of an industry here. And that's a huge issue, because the lie that's being told to people is these are just, you build these things, you turn them on, you just stop printing money. It isn't even true if you manage to get a client. But at scale, this is just completely false. It's just insanely false. But because the people investing in these are led by people with brains of dogs who don't...
No, dogs have a much better brain than these idiots. I would call them brains of pigs.
Because I'm just a slight rant here, which I know is atypical for this show. I am not... I got into this and I learned all of this financial stuff on the fly. I learned all of this is self-taught. I now have a Bloomberg terminal after a month, hit me up an IB, but like I've learned a bunch of stuff, and it's really easy to see what I'm seeing because you just go and look.
It's a grift, nothing more. They are stealing people's money. They're gonna use this AI and the LLMs and stuff, and they're gonna steal all the money from the people.
You just go, you look at the revenues of Ira, Nebius, CoreWeave, Cypher Mining, TerraWolf. You look at these companies and you try and cut away the hyperscaler stuff. I think 65 to 70% of CoreWeave's revenue is from Microsoft and Nvidia, for example. And they're making hundreds of millions of dollars from when renting AI GPUs. This is meant to be the next big thing. This is meant to be insatiable demand.
I don't get the business of renting GPUs. How is it profitable to rent a GPU? Who buys these GPUs and gives it for renting? How much? The moment you buy a GPU, it automatically becomes a depreciating asset. So till what time does a company deem a GPU to be obsolete?
If that was the case, they would all have remaining performance obligations of hundreds of billions of dollars. Because think about it. If there was massive demand, just everyone needed this, and they needed it at scale, everyone would have the RPOs, rather than just the hyperscalers who are renting them to OpenAI and Anthropic. But people are being conned into investing in data centers because they think, oh, it's an AI factory. Oh, that's where AI comes out of. And honestly, there's a fourth one I didn't even put in.
Oh, where is the end result? What do they What was the exact business model of an AI? What does it? How does it create wealth?
There, which is there's a misunderstanding of what a data center does. When people talk about progress with data centers, we need to make sure we have data centers in America, we need to make this, we need to make that. They have this weird thing where they think that the AI comes out of those data centers. You don't know what's happening in the data center down the road from you. That could just be some moron.
Yeah, nobody knows what the data centers do. What is the inference that is running on these GPUs?
Doing, I don't know, Monte Carlo simulations. I truly don't think there's that much else you can do with GPUs, but they're running their own open source models. Maybe, who knows? Or it's an AI startup. That startup being there, or that startup being in Gibraltar, does not matter. Because the way that the AI actually gets to you is through CDNs, like Akamai. There's a completely different infrastructure that brings the internet and websites to your door, and it is not from those goddamn GPUs. There are regional GPU centers for that Microsoft, Amazon, Google, Oracle run, sure. But a data center being in your backyard doesn't really matter. So someone building, it's almost like, yeah, we've got to build factories everywhere, and your assumption is that the factories all do something useful, when like 95% of them just make like pictures of Keir Starmer, just a Keir Starmer picture factory. But you're like, we got to have to, because what if one of the factories does something useful? And it's very frustrating because I really have tried.
Yeah, they make pictures of cats.
I've really tried to disprove this thesis. I've really run this through the ringer because of the piece I put out this week. Because the natural, logical endpoint of what I'm saying is that this is one of the greatest capital misallocations in history, to quote just Dario, great analyst there.